Hello again, it's Miss Jones from Sew with Miss Jones. I am going to show you how to put the pocket together. So according to these directions, it is suggested that you cut this out and use this ruler. But if you have a tape measure or if you have a seam gauge, those work just as well. We're going to pin the pocket pieces right side together. And then it tells us to mark the seam line. We actually have already marked that seam line. I think it's easier to do when you're only using one layer of fabric. But it does say for us to pin our fabrics right side together. So I attached them to my pocket so I wouldn't lose it, and I am going to put that right into the bag so I don't lose my pocket piece in case I need to use it later. So right sides, to put these together, right sides together, we are going to start with the pretty side up. This is the one that's not marked. We want the pins on the side that's marked because it'll be a whole lot easier to sew from this side. And we want to lay these right on top of each other and smooth them out so that the edges are stacked right on top of each other. I'm just going to stick a pin in the middle for right now so they don't move around very much. And I am going to sew this direction. Okay, I'm going to start here and I'm going to sew counterclockwise. Because I'm going to sew counterclockwise, I want to make sure that I put the pin heads the direction that I'm sewing. So I'm going to put one right about here. You don't have to have a ton, you do need to have some. But if you notice, the pin head is this way. So as I'm sewing, I'm not bumping into the points. And I will take them out as I go along. And I want to make sure that every step along the way, the pins are going with the head on the right-hand side and the point on the left-hand side. If I put them in this way, if I put them in the opposite way like this, as I'm stitching along, I could actually catch my finger on that, and that would not be very pleasant. Nobody likes to get stabbed. I don't need this one in the middle anymore. And I think I'm going to put one right there. Now, we did, if you notice, the pins are parallel to the sewing line. I do this whenever I'm doing hand sewing. If I am doing machine sewing, then I would put all the pins perpendicular to the sewing line so that I can take them out as I go. But since we're doing hand sewing, I am going to put them in parallel, and then I can take them out as we go along. Now we do have this opening here at the bottom, and it says to put a double pin, but honestly, that's where I'm going to put my perpendicular pins. I'm just going to put a perpendicular pin here, and I'm going to put a perpendicular pin here. I don't need two since my other pins are going the opposite or going a different direction. That will remind me that between these two perpendicular pins there will not be any sewing. So my pocket is all prepped and ready to go. I need to get some thread and my needle, and we will do the next step. So we've already done all the marking, and the next thing it says is to cut a piece of thread 36 inches long. So if you have a tape measure, you could measure a piece of thread out so that it's as long as 36 inches, okay? Or if you don't have one of those, you could just use your ruler, a 12-inch ruler, and do it 3 times. I think I've got to get the tail out from underneath here. It's being contrary. There we go. So I am going to just measure this along my one, 2, 3. And it doesn't have to be exactly 36 inches, but it should be kind of close. I think they have estimated that that's about how much thread you need to get all the way around. Now, when we remember when we did our back stitches before on our practice, we used a double thread, and that is what I am going to do right now, is thread my needle. And I'm not going to use the needle threader this time, but you certainly can. This needle has a pretty big eye, and I generally don't have to use a needle threader, but I want you to know how to do it just in case. Okay, so I want my two ends together and become buddies. And I'm going to hold my needle between, I'm going to do the quilter's knot again. So I have my needle between my, my pointer finger and my thumb. I'm going to stick the thread underneath my thumb, and I'm going to wrap it around about 3 or 4 times, and then hold tight on the thread, and it's just going to slide. I'm grabbing the needle, and it's just going to slide down to the end. And there's my knot. I'm going to cut the little tail off. Now remember, on the inside we don't have to hide the knot because it's going to be on the inside. But you know what I'm probably going to do is I think I'm going to maybe do just a couple of stitches in place right at the beginning, because when we turn this right side out, we really don't want this to come undone. Sometimes when you're stitching, your two threads become, they kind of get uneven. And what I usually do is just take my thread and just kind of slide it up and make them friends again. Okay, so I'm going to do just a couple of stitches right in place. And then I'm going to do my first back stitch. And I'm not going to show you all the way around here, but I do want to go around a corner so you know what to do on a corner. So remember, we want these kind of small because we want to make sure that our pocket doesn't come apart. Oh my goodness. Okay, so you're going to go back and touch the previous stitch and then go just a little bit ahead of where your thread is coming out and pull it flat. Remember, don't pull too tight because you don't want to have puckers. And I will tell you, this is a lot harder doing it in front of a camera than it is if I can sit on my couch and have it higher up in my lap, because I don't have really good light right now here, and I can control where it is next to my face better. I will tell you, if you notice this keeps getting caught around these big pins, you probably won't have quite that kind of mess. And I have a little knot. Let me see if I can get this worked out. One of the things is try to back up a little bit rather than, you know, don't just, if it gets tangled, don't just pull hard, because that is just going to make it worse. Just kind of gently get it so it gets back to where it should be. Okay, I think I'm going to try to move in just a little bit so you can see me go around this corner. There we go. So again, I've got a couple more to do. And the thing about doing corners is that you do want to kind of end right at that corner. You don't want to just kind of go across, because then you won't have a sharp point. So I'm actually going to take a stitch right in place, and my stitch is going to end up right at the corner. Okay, even though it's not quite the same as it should be. Alrighty, And then I'm going to turn, and I'm going to do another back stitch right there at the corner, and I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to do just a couple more, and then I'm going to send you on your way. Remember, if you run out of thread, or if your thread breaks for some reason and you want to redo it, you do need to tie a knot on the back. Don't try to tie a new thread on to this particular thread. When you are down to about 4 inches, you can take it to the underneath side and then do that loop through a couple of times. And if you forget how to do it, it's over here on your guide sheet. Okay, or you can look back at the previous video. So I'm going to do one more, and then I am going to send you on your way. And in fact, I think I might switch out these pins for the smaller ones just for this particular thing, because these big ones are driving me crazy. If you notice, I have stitched all the way around my pocket, and I want to just give you a couple of reminders. One is make sure that you make like an extra stitch in each corner to strengthen it, and also to make sure that you have a nice sharp corner. And then if you notice, my thread is still attached, and that's because I wanted to make a couple of extra stitches right here at the where my stitching ended. And I'm just going to do one more real quick and pull through and knot it. The other thing, before you go off and start sewing, if you notice, I have a pillow on my lap, and a pillow is really nice for working like this, because if you have it sitting on your lap while you're doing this hand stitching, your body can be more relaxed. You don't have to be holding your stuff in a very awkward way. So like when I was sewing, I had it sitting like this, and I could rest my hands on the pillow while I was stitching. It made it a lot more comfortable instead of holding it up in the air. That's a lot less comfortable. And you certainly don't want to put it on your lap to do your stitching, because you might end up stitching it to your pants. Okay, the next time we get together, I'm going to show you how to trim your pocket and clip the corners and turn it right side out. Bye for now.